Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to Sociolinguistics 1. I name it Sociolinguistics 1 because I want you all to remember the lesson well, because this will have some series and the number will help you to remember what you have watched. Okay? Before we talk more about the topic today, I want you to subscribe the channel. I want your kindness, okay, to subscribe the channel. And do not forget to ring the bell, like ring like this, so you could get notification of new videos or lesson that I will post. See? I'm sorry to ask you to do that, but I need it. Thank you. Now, let's talk about the topic. I know you guys are ready for the topic. Are you guys ready? Yeah, I know you're ready. Today, we will talk about an introduction to sociolinguistics by Janet Holmes. So, let's begin with the question, what do sociolinguists study? Okay. Sociolinguistics is a term that refers to the study of the relationship between language and society, and how language is used in multilingual speech communities. This question is very important to address at the outset of the lesson, because it helps you to broaden your horizon, to wander around what I'm going to study. Okay? You all need to know that languages provide a variety of ways of saying the same thing, addressing and greeting others, describing things, paying compliments. And if you can notice it clearly, in most languages, there are many different ways of addressing people. And the uniqueness of these varieties become intriguing and interesting for sociolinguists. And you need to know the answer. Do you know why? Do you want to know? Because they are interested in different types of linguistic variation. So they are interested in different types of linguistic variation used to express and reflect social factors. Right. Another important issue that you need to know also at this stage is sociolinguists aimed or are willing to describe sociolinguistic variation, and if it's possible, they like and they love to explain why it happens. Well, if you like, or if some of you feel like you are really into this, then you need to think of how are you going to deepen your understanding and analysis for this knowledge. Yeah? Well, other important area that you also need to know is what aspect what aspects of language are sociolinguists interested in? Okay. So, sociolinguists are interested in explaining why people speak differently in different social contexts. Sociolinguists are interested in studying the effect of social factors such as social distance, social status, age, gender, class, on language varieties like dialects, registers, genres, and so on. And they are also concerned with identifying the social functions of language and the way they are used to convey social meanings. Yeah? Okay, right. Now, let's talk about example of dialects. I think this is very important. A dialect is a variety of English which is associated with a particular region and or social class. To state the obvious, speakers from different geographical regions speak English rather differently. In addition to geographical variation, the social background of speaker will also influence the variety of English that person speaks. Let's talk about our own context in Southeast Sulawesi. I will talk about Baobab. It's my hometown. I love it. It's a beautiful place to live in. Well, if two children may grow up in the same village in Baobab, but if one is born into a wealthy family and attends an expensive private schools, while the other is born into a less well-off family and attends the local state school, the two children are likely to end up speaking rather different varieties of Indonesian. You can see that. You can try, right? Or maybe you yourself experience that. It's this condition of regional and social variation that we may refer to collectively as dialect. For this one, you can refer to Hudson 2014. Okay, you can read it. Now, we're going to see example of registers. Before we talk about register, let's talk about prescriptive and descriptive. This is very interesting, right? And I want you to jot down the information because, you may need it later. Prescriptive grammar is associated with a fear of change and the degradation of language, while descriptive linguistics recognize non-standardized varieties and observes how language changes, rather than preventing it from changing. Now, let's talk about register. Register is fascinating to understand and explore, in sociolinguistics, of course. So, register in sociolinguistics is a variety of language used for a particular purpose in a particular communicative situation. For example, when speaking officially in a public setting, or maybe in a very formal place, an English speaker may be more likely to follow prescriptive norms for formal usage than in a casual setting. For example, by pronouncing words ending in "ing" with a velar nasal instead of an alveolar nasal. See this example. Working, not working. Okay. What else? Yeah. Hoping, not hoping. Yeah. So going, not going, and so on. You can think of your own examples. And choosing the words that are considered more formal, such as father versus dad, or child versus kid. And you need to know they are refraining from using words considered non-standard, such as what? Ain't? Yeah. And so on. Now, I think you must be a bit curious with the example of genres. Genre is a term used to classify types of spoken and written discourse. These are normally classified by content, language, purpose, and form. Okay. Now, I want you all to jot down its examples. The first one is spoken genres. They include presentation, speeches, interview, and informal conversation. And the second one is written genres. They include procedure, descriptive, narrative, persuasive, and poetry writing, and so on. Now, we will move on to some terms that are quite principled to know and understand. What do sociolinguists mean by the term variety? Okay. A variety is a set of linguistic forms used under specific circumstances with a distinctive social distribution. Why we need to know this term? Why? It's because variation is a characteristic of language. There is more than one way of saying the same thing. Speakers may vary pronunciation or accent, word choice, lexicon, or morphology, and syntax, sometimes called as a grammar. Right? In other words, I want to emphasize that language variation is a core concept in linguistics. Yes, so remember, it's a core concept. Right. Let's talk about formality. Okay. Formality is a kind of social deixis that expresses the setting or social activity in which language use takes place. And you need to know that it increases, the formality, it increases between participants. Who are the participants? Speakers like me and hearer like you, when the social distance is greater. Okay? How about informality or solidarity? It is the opposite of formality. It increases when the social distance is little. Okay? It's little between participants. The speaker, like me, and the hearer, like you. Okay. So you can just say greater and little. That's a clear difference. Well, we will end up our meeting today by talking about social status briefly. When we talk about social status, we will talk about a number of factors, because social status will depend heavily on a number of factors such as social rank, wealth, gender, and so on. Therefore, the person with the higher social status has the choice of using formality or informality when addressing other person of lower social status. See? But for the person with the lower social status, he or she uses only formality when addressing a person of higher social status. You know, this will seem quite odd or probably quite unfair, but it's the reality. Okay? You see this everywhere, or maybe you experience this. Well, what are you going to do after listening and watching this video? You need to read more literatures and talk with your teacher and your friends in the class. You can talk about this, yeah? You can talk about things, you can talk about this, you can talk about whatever. But what I am suggesting you to do, you can talk about things that are happening around you. Take and use as issues an example for your discussion. It's very easy. Well, that's the end of the class. How you could discern what I have presented. Okay? So discern, like understand. Yeah? Happy studying and thanks for watching. Bye.